So I don't think it's unfair to expect the government to hold a very careful line and really to concentrate on what happens next. For Donald Trump to stand there and say, I'm running another country, these people behind me, secretaries of state, they're going to be running another country. Well, hold on a minute. Yeah. This is a sovereign country. The Venezuelans have been through a lot. They've been through elections that have been disregarded. When do they come into it? And how can it possibly be that if the United States doesn't like those who are elected in due course in Venezuela, that they will remove them again?
And now, Alistair, sorry to interrupt again, but I should just mention that on our screens we are seeing that deposed dictator being frog-marched out of a car, across a concourse, and by the looks of it, towards a helicopter. Alistair, do stay on the line for us. I'm just going to bring in Charlie Peters, our correspondent here in the studio. Charlie, again, these images, look at his head, bowed down there. This was a man that was once all-powerful in a Southern American country, and now a prisoner of the United States. And wearing prisoner's uniform with those orange shoes you're seeing there for adding to his visibility as they move him around the city, and a sheer display of American power as well, with the number of people involved in this convoy being taken now by helicopter from Brooklyn, where he's been at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, where he will now be flown towards a Manhattan courthouse for his first appearance in a US court. He's in the Southern District of New York, where many high-profile prosecutions are used. This courthouse is used regularly for federal prosecutions of the highest level, and he has his arraignment hearing at midday local times, around 5 o'clock our time. Charges will be read out to the accused, and they will then be invited to enter a plea. What will Nicolás Maduro, the deposed president of Venezuela, say when he is asked by a US judge what his response is to those drug trafficking charges? Also,
to show that the United States has won this particular incident. Here is a former dictator, enemy of Donald Trump, about to go on trial. So these pictures, like all the pictures we've seen since Maduro was captured, are all carefully staged. But you have this consequence now of what is going to happen. What will happen to the people of Venezuela? They have lost someone who no one is going to weep any tears for. But as we have found with previous interventions by states that seek to remove bad people like Saddam Hussein and bring in something better, it doesn't always work out that way. So everything that unfolds from the other night is a matter of
Maduro being led out of that
importance.
van. Just the most extraordinary pictures here. Nicolás Maduro being led into a police car with flashing lights. Our correspondent Charlie Peters is with us in the studio. Charlie, just extraordinary images there of a man in handcuffs.
Yes, so Nicolás Maduro obviously being now taken towards his first court appearance, which is scheduled to be about 5 hours' time. But he has got such a difficult procedure to go through before then. I'm talking about the difficulty for the US security services to move this man safely into the court, the Southern District of New York. We are expecting that appearance later today. He is in one of the most secure prisons in the United States. That's where he spent the last 2 days. And he's
well, we can now come back to Alistair Burt. Sorry, Alistair, for interrupting you there. We were just seeing those pictures of Nicolás Maduro. I believe only the second pictures, really, that we've seen of him since his arrest.
Yes, but as I say, you'll see many more. The pictures are deliberately being beamed out to make sure people know what has happened and see it as a great result for Donald Trump and American power.
People are saying that actually Donald Trump has broken international law. People are banding that phrase around.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think that's probably right. But it doesn't really matter very much. You said a moment ago now that international law is effectively in abeyance at present. We're working through a new period where might is right. And whatever international order was created out of the tragedy of the 20th century and the horrific world wars, that generation has gone. It's been replaced by people who've forgotten the lessons, and we're now into a new era There will be some results that will be good, like removing a bad man on this occasion, but there will be consequences of this that are likely to be bad. So how do you make your judgment on what is the right thing to have done? And I think that is one of the issues posed by the actions we've seen in the last 48 hours, and it will run on for some time.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GBnews in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, as you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
He is now in US custody, and he was taken into custody by DEA officials, the Drugs Enforcement Agency, and an agency under the Department of Justice umbrella, and that has been crucial to the framing of this by US officials. Beautiful shot of the Manhattan skyline.
Can I just say at this moment, what a symbol of American power for this deposed dictator to be flown into one of the most prosperous cities in the world, just this enormous might of American financial prowess. I mean, he must be sitting in the back of that helicopter looking at New York, just thinking, what have I got myself in for? The sheer power of the American state coming down against a man who was once all-powerful in his own country. I do want to bring back in Alistair Burt, the former foreign minister, who is on the line still, because Alistair, Charlie was just talking there about what might happen elsewhere in the world. Are we seeing a strangely, perhaps unpredictably, interventionist Donald Trump?
Yes, I think that's clear from what he's already done and what he's been saying. And one of the mysteries is that he came to office pledged not to do this. He had very strong backing from his America First constituency that was tired of the so-called never-ending wars. He bitterly criticized the actions of the United States administrations in Iraq and Afghanistan for what they had done in trying to take over and run sovereign countries. And here he is doing exactly that. So I think there will be some concern amongst his own base about what's going to happen next.
Apologies there. We seem to have cut to another feed. Just we can see there, Nicolás Maduro is stepping out of the helicopter. Charlie Peters is with us in the studio. Charlie, what are we looking at here?
Well, Nicolás Maduro now in Lower Manhattan. I think interesting to see the DEA being involved in this transfer, the Drugs Enforcement Agency. When we saw that, what will undoubtedly become an iconic image of Nicolás Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima hours after his capture, a DEA agent was also pictured alongside him. The US very keen to project this theory, this hypothesis behind their intervention, that it was due to drugs trafficking. The DEA will be front and centre through all of this activity as much as possible. Now, we're also hearing now from our producer, Lewis Mackenzie, that it appears the other passenger of that helicopter is a woman, so likely his wife, Chila Flores, who is also being transported to the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan later today. That Brooklyn jail complex is about 5 miles away and moving across now. The couple has been at the jail, which has, of course, housed many infamous detainees, including Ghislaine Maxwell and Puff Daddy and Sean Combs, since Saturday. Now moving with the support and the convoy of armed personnel from the DEA and as a heavily armed manoeuvre. But it doesn't have to be this public. This is a perp walk really like no other. The US is putting on a show here to ensure that he is as visible as possible. They could just as easily, as we see him now being put into a vehicle and taken away towards that courthouse, they could have just as easily done this in a slightly more private fashion without as much time of him out in public as possible. He seems to be struggling getting into that armoured vehicle now, in cuffs, as you'd expect, with more DEA and armed officers surrounding the deposed president. They are now going to head by vehicle to that Manhattan courthouse. He's been charged with narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, among other charges, according to that unsealed indictment as the doors close on that armoured vehicle. His wife is also charged with that cocaine conspiracy and the weapons charges as well. And this is the peak, the pinnacle of a months-long campaign that was being launched by the US administration in Venezuela. We've seen a blockade in the southern Caribbean. We've seen 2 oil tankers being seized. We might yet see a third, which is approaching waters between the Faroe Islands and Iceland, and indeed the United Kingdom, where there's quite a lot of US military activity at the moment. So there's a realistic possibility we could see some further military action on Venezuelan-linked oil tankers quite close to the United Kingdom. But right now, Nicolás Maduro in that armoured vehicle preparing to be moved towards the courthouse where he will be facing those charges. I have to say, watching this footage, Tom and Nana, it's like something out of a Christopher Nolan film, with the way he's being displayed to everyone, the sheer sense of power, the backdrop of Manhattan, the financial capital of the world, and very much, the strength of US capital and military might and justice on display.
Cameras at all angles, you can see it.
See there some of the blockades put up by, that looks like vehicles from the NYPD to ensure the flow of Nicolás Maduro. And you can see the open back of the van in front of it. We can't see into that, but I'd say almost certainly that is an armed observation onto the front of the vehicle to keep it covered from all angles. You'll have total oversight from the air as well as this process continues. And that's a seriously hefty vehicle carrying him as well. Bulletproof in the extreme. There is nothing really that's going to threaten to penetrate that vehicle, providing what I'd say, Tom, is a show of force beyond what is necessary.
And you can see in the back of that van there, those observers, armed officers.
Keeping an eye on the vehicle, and members of the NYPD out of their vehicles observing his arrival as well, keeping the streets clear as he continues that journey towards the Manhattan courthouse, where he will be travelling, we now understand, with his wife, will be part of that convoy. It'll be interesting to see if she appears in the same courthouse with him as well, or whether there will be separate appearances on the indictment. Maduro was seen as he approached that motorcade and indeed the helicopter wearing a tan jumpsuit inside the prison. He's worn quite a few different outfits since he was picked up, including what appeared to be a Nike tracksuit when he was first detained on the USS Iwo Jima. But now that vehicle reversing inside the Manhattan courthouse, and journalists have been camped outside there in the below freezing temperatures early this morning. Interesting to see no protesters gathering there. So the location very much cleared of any potential observers or those who might get close to the deposed president.